Okay, welcome to part 2 of Charlie's edition, The Joy of Gay Sex series. Now we're going to talk about bondage and discipline. Now, we've talked about S&M in the past and all that stuff. Now, this subject is actually very appealing to me because I must say I like dominance. I'm not going to be scared to say it. If I met a guy, he has to have a little dominance to himself. So this right here is going to interest me very much. So, for those of you who like S&M and bondage and discipline and pain and all that stuff, you want to hear this. So, here we go. Bondage always implies domination, but not necessarily S&M. Some men like the sweet agony of being tied up and then subjected to a long blowjob, to which they can respond only with groans, or to having their body licked and caressed until they're mad with pleasure, or to being screwed in the mouth or in the ass while they writhe, unable to do anything to stop the action. Other men prefer being the dominator. They like nothing better than to handcuff their partner and tie him tightly to the bedpost or bedboard to feel complete control over him. The domination can be teasing, gentle, or rough. When it is a part of S&M sex, bondage is an extreme dramatization of the master-slave relationship. The master is in such total control that obedience is no longer an issue. The thrill for the slave comes from his being completely dependent on the master and the complete trust this dependence signifies. What to use in bondage? Women and some men prefer softer tie, silk, satin, any material that is completely pleasurable to the touch. Others prefer leather thongs and wear them wrapped around their neck, or a dog collar, when they go out at night as advertisement and inducement. Still, others use anything handy: telephone and electrical wiring, bed sheets, towels, metal and plastic police restraints, just as long as it fits into the roles being played. The biggest turn on, and conversely the biggest problem in bondage, is control and the lack of it. While the master's control is crucial and indeed desirable to some degree, the exact degree of control ought to be decided upon in advance by both parties. This will keep the bondage a sexual turn-on and keep it from becoming a dangerous, frightening experience. We assume you've chosen someone trustworthy to tie you up. To do otherwise is to place yourself in a particularly dangerous position. For example, a friend of the Arthurs was sitting at home one evening. His doorbell started ringing and didn't stop. When he opened the door, he found his next-door neighbor on his knees, naked, arms and legs bound by rope, ringing the bell with his nose. After having sex, his trick left him bound and robbed him. Since the wider publication of Robert Mapplethorpe's photos of rubber and leather encased men, and the film Pulp Fiction, with its examples of the same, other kinds of bondage and discipline have become more popular. Sheathing your body with a full rubber or leather body glove. Some of these are artistic, expensive, made-to-order items. They can be tailored to fully enclose the body, except for a few breath holes with zippers over the mouth, eye, penis, and anus slit. Often the encased man is stood up in a corner of a room, then hung from carefully set up wires or set upon shelving, in effect becoming an exhibit, a piece of human decor. Or opposite to being exhibited, he might instead be hidden away, further encased in coffin-like boxes and closets. Obviously, this is a fairly exotic way to get your kicks, and definitely not for the claustrophobic or easily bored. Still, it has its devotees. The bondage scene in gay life can go beyond sexuality in other, even more arcane ways. The famous Mine Shaft in New York City used to hold its bondage clubs meetings on Sunday afternoons, and it wasn't surprising to walk in a half-dozen young men tied up in heavy hemp rope in all sorts of positions, and to have a lecturer in full British admiralty dressed explaining the intricacies of the 19th century English marine knots being used. A lecture that, slave for the naked, withering bodies, might be held in any museum with precise terminology, wooden pointer, and avid listeners. Discipline used to be considered intrinsic to bondage and paired with it. The two shortened it to read as B&D. This is less true today, partly due to the huge growth of the gay Leatherman scene, with S&M now such a large and complex sector of the gay community. Discipline can consist of anything from insults and verbal abuse by the master to a slave to the most brutal kind of physical torment. All of it must be acceptable, a priority to the slave being disciplined, or it has no meaning or context within your relationship. Should you find yourself in a sexual situation with a stranger who tries to talk you into bondage or discipline, or who, without asking your permission, begins to tie you up or discipline you verbally or physically, stop him immediately and tell him you are not interested. If he persists in this behavior, instantly get yourself away from him and out of the situation. Don't bother explaining yourself or defending your position. Even if he's merely insulting you, you don't need the abuse. You don't deserve it. And some people are definitely crazy like that, and that's why you don't want to do things like bondage and discipline with people you don't know, especially strangers, because they could come in there, tie you up, and rape your ass, and like they said, rob you. So, no. You definitely do it with somebody that you trust, know, and even if it's like handcuffs or something, get the things that have the quick releases that you can do for yourself. So, that topic interested me very much. So, stay tuned to part 3 of Charlie's Edition, and we will talk about our next topic. Holla back.